One of the difficult topics that we want to discuss is loss of a bio parent to addiction. And this could apply to other family members as well, but we want to talk specifically about bio parents because many of our foster and adoptive kids might struggle with this. And this can be a huge source of shame and rejection for them. They might internalize the reasons behind why their parents struggled with addiction. And so it's really important that we take time to educate ourselves, to have this conversation with them. And that's why we wanted to make this video, to help you know age-appropriate ways to have that conversation and talk about resources and a few tips that you can use in the process. So the first tip really is to only share what they ask you to share. Oftentimes when a child comes to us with a difficult question, it's usually because they're ready to hear the answer. And so, again, maybe they'll come to you with something like, "Why did mommy leave?" And for a younger child, you might say something like, "You know what, baby, mommy was sick and mommy couldn't take care of you." And if that younger child or an older child follows up with a question like, "Well, what did mommy have?" or "Why was mommy sick?" you might say something along the lines of, "Well, mommy had a disease called addiction, and addiction affects your brain and the decisions that you make. It makes it hard to make good decisions for yourself and others." And this goes into other things that I'm going to talk about later, but the next thing that's so important is to just remind them that it's not their fault. Many times our kids will internalize, "Why did this happen?" and think that it has something to do with them, something that they did wrong. And it's really important to remind them that addiction changes their brain, the brain of their bio parent, and it makes it hard for the bio parent to make good decisions and to consider the consequences of having left their child or having, whatever decisions they may have made and not being able to take care of their child. And so reminding them of this often is going to be a key point in being able to help them address the feelings that they're going to have related to this topic. The third thing that you can do is to help your kids understand addiction. And one of the ways that you can do that is to educate yourself first so that you become comfortable with the information. Maybe you and your spouse will want to sit together and educate yourselves on things so that you can decide on what things you want to say and what things you don't want to say. And you can also, there's so many resources out there. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is SAMHSA. If you Google that, they have a ton of resources. So does Focus on the Family. And you can just look up resources on addiction and begin to understand what happens in the brain, what happens in the biology of the person that struggles with addiction, so that you can help the child to understand those things while not scaring them into thinking that they might have addiction themselves because their parents had it. And so that's important as well. If you feel like this is a hard topic for you to discuss, you definitely want to bring it up with a therapist or clinician here, because we can help you navigate that conversation. We might encourage you and empower you to have it on your own with the child, but we're here to help you. And so we want to be able to help you navigate that conversation well. And then remember that as our kids get older, new parts of their brains are developing and they're forming new understanding. And with that new understanding comes new emotions, new questions, new behaviors. And so it's important to demonstrate compassion. The Bible in 1 Thessalonians 5:14, it tells us to take tender care of those who are weak and to be patient with everyone. And we really want to encourage you to do that, because that's the example that our Father God, He sets for us. And so we want to be able to do that same thing as a parent, and that can be hard. But 1 Corinthians 13 reminds us that love is patient and it's kind and it doesn't rejoice in wrongdoing. but it endures through all things. And so we want to encourage you to do that with your child as you're dealing with this difficult topic.